In today's show, you'll hear investor perspectives on the oil and gas sector. This is Investor Perspectives. I'm the host of Investor Connect, Halty Martin, where we connect startups and investors for funding. Oil and gas continues to see change. In today's show, you'll hear about a new company in the oil and gas sector called Flowtex. Our host today is Ashley Matthysse. Our featured guests are Brent, Mathie, lead investor, and Beau, president at Flowtex. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi there, Ashley Matthysse with 10 Capital. I am joined today by Beau with Flowtex and their investor, Brent, Mathie. Thank you, gentlemen, both so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, Beau, if you could start us off by just giving us a quick overview of Flowtex.
Okay. Flowtex Energy we're a small, mid-level oil and gas, natural gas producer based out of Austin, Texas. We've been in business now going on 5 years, and we work with private investors across the country to develop proven oil fields, mainly in the Southeast Texas area. And we work with folks who love to invest in our projects for not only the significant return potential that comes with the oil and gas business, but also for the unique and often fantastic tax benefits that they are able to see from the investments. And we've had a great deal of success over the past few years, and actually a really, really good amount of success over the past 6 months. And that's why we're kind of expanding our base and expanding our operations there in Southeast Texas.
Brent, I'd love to go ahead and ask you some questions. So what is your background as an investor?
I've been investing probably for 20 years. For the last 10, we've kind of refined our investment philosophy. We look at opportunities that are more Main Street than Wall Street. We pretty much have fired the institutional money thing. So we're looking at being as close to the asset as possible. We look for long-term holds with returns, cash flow, and tax advantages. We try to diversify across industries. Oil and gas for us is very new. So reaching out to Flowtex and learning a little bit about what they were offering to investors like us was really interesting to us about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. But we invest in real estate, in other energy sectors like coal, but it's coal distillation, which is more of a process that's environmentally friendly, that generate byproducts for high-grade pharmaceuticals, and as well in the finance space and several startups. So the last 10 years, we've gotten to rely heavily on syndicators, so people that we have a lot of trust and confidence in that know their respective industries. And that's proven to be a fairly lucrative approach for us. So we're really pleased to be working with Flowtex now to help us in the oil and gas space.
What made you decide to invest in this deal?
Well, we've done 3 projects. So it started with dipping our toe in the water. We liked that Flowtex, relative to other companies in oil and gas, is smaller. It's a niche market, if you will, for us anyway. And the first one that we did was an actual full life cycle, I guess you call it. So it started with looking at all the geological information, the engineering, actually doing a drill, test completion and into production. And that was Yang. And then Rockdale, which was something that was already operating. And then now the third one. But for us, it really came back to looking to diversify. Nothing really in our portfolio was directly tied to oil and gas. And it met our philosophy. Like I said, it's cash flow, longer term hold, good returns, and tax advantages.
Okay. What did you like about the team?
Willing to answer a lot of our questions. So I'm saying it again, it was new for us. I'm not an oil and gas guy, other than, filling my vehicle up at the pump and changing the oil in my vehicle. That's about it. I mean, awareness of the industry, yes, but investing in it, no. So they were very responsive in answering all of our questions, not just about the individual opportunities, but in general, their business plan, their company, what their targets were, what their philosophies were. So there was an alignment there. It was kind of fitting something that we were looking for in our portfolio. So we thought we would try the first one. And I mean, there are all kinds of acronyms in this industry that I had no idea what they were about. So Beau and team were fantastic in educating me, and I'm still learning. And like in any investment, there are things that you plan for, and there are things that happen that you don't plan for. And what I've really liked so far is things may change, and it's the way that they've reacted or responded to the changes.
And why do you think this company will continue to be successful?
I think they really care about setting expectations and communicating on a regular basis to the investors. Like I said earlier, we rely heavily on our syndicators. And for me, team matters, communication matters. So I get regular communications from Beau's team. The communications are really important to us, or to me, my wife and I. And I can see that resonating with other investors. So I can see where other folks would be interested in investing with this company. I can see how this company can grow. They're not they're not desperate for new projects. It seems like they're looking at things that fit their business model. Whereas you can sense with some other companies out there, not just in this industry, but they're a little over eager to generate new projects and drive more investors in their company. And I don't get that desperation here. I get it's a real solid, thought out business approach to the company, and it meets our needs.
What challenges have you seen the company face and overcome?
One or two come to mind. So Rockdale, one of them that we're involved in, has had a much slower start, but the communications along the way kind of made me understand what was going on. And recently there was a decision made to get boots on the ground. And that really, for me, shows that things that don't necessarily go according to plan, that's going to happen in any investment, in any project. For me, it matters when the company that you're investing with, it's how they respond to that. And we really appreciated that decision to actually get somebody out there and boots on the ground. And hopefully that's going to drive a lot more progress than we've seen.
What excites you most about this opportunity?
I think just the fact that we're in this industry now at a smaller level, if you will, just a few projects, but that we're seeing the returns are there. They can, again, it's meeting our expectations. So cash flow potential, overall return, tax advantages. And so for us, what excites us is actually, meeting or exceeding those expectations. And as things progress, I'm sure we'll be involved in more.
How are you helping the team?
I think I talk a lot with Aldo on Beau's team, and we often just have these informal exchanges of information. And sometimes I'll let him know what other syndicators have done for us. So back to communications, and I think I've shared this with Aldo a few times. I don't know of another syndicator I've worked with that still relies on hard copies and FedEx. And when it comes to sending distributions in the mail, I just think that that's an area where this company could grow and evolve. So we've talked about that. It's not that it's off the table, but the possibility of going more digital. As you all know, with where things are in this world we live in, virtual is just a way of life. And being able to do things. I was in Canada for several months this past summer, and to be able logistically to do things relying on FedEx and the post office, if you will, for say, it was a little cumbersome, but I think that's something that they can improve on. So it's just that kind of feedback, and they're super open to those kinds of things. So that's what I appreciated. There's always the openness to new ideas.
And what else should other investors know about the company?
Oh gosh, that they're reliable, that they maintain solid communications, they set appropriate expectations, and they're willing to spend the time to teach. Like I said, this is a niche part of the oil and gas industry. I had no idea about it, and there's been a steep learning curve for me, but they're willing to spend the time to make sure that you clearly understand what you're in for. And it's not just all of the big positives or the possibilities, but even the risks, understanding the risks. And I think that's important. Aldo, just yesterday, he and I were talking about investor risk tolerance. And I think that's important when, as a company, understanding who your partners and your investors are, because some have more or less tolerances than others. And it's important to make sure that those folks clearly, I guess, for me, what was important is I expressed what my risk tolerance was, and there seemed to be a fit there. So I think what's really important is making sure that both parties understand what they're getting into in terms of a relationship. And it's okay to say no. And I think that's important too. It's okay to say no.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Brent. That's the end of my questions. Beau, could you give us an update on Flowtex and the status of your fundraise?
No, absolutely. And thanks again, Brent. I really appreciate it. Right now, status of Flowtex. We're in a really exciting time right now. Our Yang well that he's in is doing really well. We had some issues getting it dialed in earlier in the year, but now that we got it over the past 2 months, it's doing fantastic. Really right along where we expected to be. And then in addition to that, as of Saturday, our latest project, which was called the Hughes Reentry, which was an old well that was drilled originally by a bigger company back in the 80s. We went into it and starting in the beginning of August, and we're kind of revamping it, replacing some of the old and trying to bring it back to life. And our expectations for that project, our goal for that production goal for that project, was we were hoping to get about 100 to 115 barrels of oil per day. Would be a very, very successful project. And we turned the well on this past Thursday, and as of Saturday, it was doing, the last day that we had into production before replacing some of the equipment, we topped out at about 240 barrels a day. So it was doing about 2.5 times better than what we thought, which would equate to, I think the folks in that project invested a total of $110,000, and at 240 barrels a day, their monthly income is over $20,000 a month. So we're extremely excited about that and continue to work with that one. The project that we're currently funding is a project that Brent's in. It's called the Wolf Hughes joint venture. It's 2 wells. We're drilling 2 different wells, one of which is in the exact same field of the well that I just spoke about that came on so successfully. And at this point, we're about 80% funded. We're looking for, I think, 4 or 5 more investors to come in at the $90,000 investment range, and that's going to be 100% tax deductible. We're already in motion of getting that project started, and they should start seeing revenue on that project either in December or January of next year. So anybody that comes on board here in the next few weeks to a month will be put in position to get some really good tax benefits this year, but also be in position to see some pretty relatively quick returns coming in December and January.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to both of you for being here today. Really appreciate your time.
Same with you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us today. As always, be sure to leave a review, subscribe to this podcast, and share it with others. Let's go start up something today. Mathie Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.